Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ladies Power Lunch. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, at long last, Laura has been brought to you. Look, I've been trying to get her to speak to you for a while because this is important. This is information that we all need to have. We have been talking for the past couple of weeks about mastering our money mindset and really just mastering our mindset in general because we talk a lot about growing our businesses and all the things that we need to do, all the moving pieces, all the articles that we need to add to our business to grow our businesses. But without the mindset piece, guys, I don't know that we're going to be as successful as we could possibly be. I don't know if without the mindset piece, our full potential will be truly achieved. And so, I want to introduce to you somebody who knows this stuff backwards, forwards, and in a circle, and somebody who is demanded on stages all over. And we actually have the privilege of having her sit here and talk to us today. For all of you who are watching with us over on our Facebook group, I'm going to invite you to come on over into the Zoom and join us here. The link is posted in the chat, so you can join really, really easily. You're absolutely welcome. There's no barrier to entry for you as a Ladies Power Lunch member. But before we start, I want to invite the other women who have been so kind to join us here to please introduce yourselves, and then we'll get a wonderful introduction for Laura. So, Wendy, welcome. Thanks for joining. Can you tell
Hi,
everybody
everybody.
just very briefly who you are and what it is that you do? And one more thing, can you share with us why you thought it was important to join this call today?
Sure. So I'm Wendy Lee with Leadership Revolution. I'm a recovering corporate gal, was the head of HR for a long time. I was connected to this group about a year and a half ago, and then have reconnected back in because I know Davia's energy brings in so much goodness. So this was the first place that I went when I got reconnected. And why am I here today specifically? Because mastering the mindset of the money part. I know whatever is in one realm of our life is true for everything, and I like to fill myself up with information from experts in all areas. So I read up on some of the bio information, and I know this has been a series, and I'm like, I would love to be a part of that. So that's why I'm here today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Senior Vice President. Did I get it right?
Senior Vice President, now a transformational coach.
There we go. Awesome. Gail, welcome. So happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you share with everybody who you are, what you do, and why you said yes to hanging out with us today?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. My name is Gail Ely. I am the founder and president of Total Life Leadership, which is a coaching, training, facilitating company, all things leadership. By the way, we are all leaders. I would just put that out there. And I am here because I can always use an adjustment to my mindset around money. I know sometimes it's what holds me back, and Laura is actually my coach, and I'm happy to be here to support her as well, but mostly just to receive.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gail. Really appreciate you being here. And Laura, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for saying yes to talking with us today. And will you share with everybody who you are, what it is you do, and just give us a little background about how you ended up in this area of work?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and just love your community, love your enthusiasm that you bring and your wisdom that I see and popping up in Facebook all the time. Yeah, I'm Laura West. My company is the Center for Joyful Business, and I'm celebrating 20 years in business this year. Yay! I too am a corporate refugee, Wendy, and yeah, 25 years ago, I hired my first coach, a career coach, to help me figure out what I wanted to do. And I started realizing that I started realizing that I was very coach-like with my clients. And I remember reading Cheryl Richardson's book, Take Time for Your Life, an oldie but goodie now. And there was a chapter about coaching, and I went to the coaching online, got more information about it. And I was like, oh my God, this so describes me and what I do. And I was really passionate from there. Started my coaching business. So I was one of the first coaches in my coaching cohort to send out a newsletter. And then I started coaching all my people that I went through training with, all the other coaches, people who became coaches. I started coaching them on their marketing and how to grow their business. That's not really what my intention was to begin with, but I couldn't get away from the marketing and bringing that together. Yeah, and now I have this business that over the last 10 years, I offer retreats and workshops, private coaching, training, excuse me, speaking, and all different formats, different ways for people to be able to look at business in a different way. And I have a really unique approach. It's not your typical traditional business coach. I could keep going, or I just want to pause for a moment and see.
Well, I mean, not your traditional business coach. That is intriguing to me. Why would you say that you're not the traditional business coach? What is it what's the je ne sais quoi?
Yes. It's funny because I'm redoing my website. I'm rebranding, doing a whole new website right now, and are getting ready to start. And my web designer said, can you send me some links to different coaches who are similar to what you do? So I sent out a request to my private clients and said, hey, can you send me links to coaches that you see out there that do what I do? And I got crickets. There was like nothing. And then finally somebody answered, and she's like laughed, and she's like, oh my God, the reason I hired you is because you're so different from all the other business coaches. So the way that shows up, I work with change makers and ripple makers, people who are out there, they're wanting to change the world, make a positive impact, make a difference through their work, through their business. But they are usually creative, intuitive, highly sensitive, and they don't fit the mold of someone who they really rebel against all the formulas and the traditional marketing strategies. And so what I have, that's me. That's what I've done. And it's like, even though I know, and I did it for years in corporate, when I got into my own business, it didn't fit, right? It was like having a jacket on that was too tight. And it's just like, oh, I can't stand it. This just doesn't fit. And so I started developing my own practices using my intuition, sensitivities, creativity for my clients so that they could find their true, authentic path for soul nourishing marketing that works for them as much as it works for their own clients. So that way they can, and then I guess the other big part of what I do is I really help them free up their energy. We have this blocked energy through our beliefs, our stories, and things like that. Things around money, things around blocks around visibility, all sorts of things. There's a whole big list that keeps us, like this invisible stuff that keeps us from doing the things that we know, the prescription that I just gave them. Hey, go do these 3 things. And then people don't do, and they can't figure out why. And so I help them with that as well. Like you said, mindset is, if you don't get that, then you're just sitting there with a prescription and not doing it.
That's so true. I was wondering, so you say the people who come in to see you, they're the rebels, they don't fit the mold. Sounds like my kind of people right away. When they're coming to you, what's the number one problem that they're hoping you will help them to solve?
Yeah, probably the number one thing at the beginning is they really have this desire to get their work out in a bigger way. So whether they're starting out beginning or they're more seasoned and they're trying to look like, all right, how do I go to that next level? Or my private clients tend to be like what I call legacy clients, where they've been around for, 10 or more years. They're experts at what they do, but they haven't put a marketing system in place that's beyond just referrals. And they're ready to put their message out to really create their life's work or their soul's work in a bigger way. So that number one thing is they know they have this soul work to do, and that they want to help change lives. And of course they want to make money. And we'll talk about where that falls on their priority list in a minute. But the marketing stuff they're hearing, they're either overwhelmed, they don't know where to start, or they just can't figure out, why don't I want to do this? Why am I rebelling? Why am I blocked? What's going on? Something is happening. It's almost like this veil is over and they can't figure out, why they won't step into who it is they know that they're wanting to become.
And so if you could just get all of us and take us into one big group hug and teach us one thing to help us move past stuff like that, to lift that veil, if you will. Because I know what you're talking about. It's like a lot of the times, patients, clients, people in general, when they're working on something, it feels like there's a glass wall. It's like you can almost see what the result would be, but something is blocking.
Right.
What's your teaching on that for all of us?
I have lots of different teachings on it. So there's different layers, because I find that there's layers to peel back. But one of the big things is really looking at, we say we want this, right? We say we want to be this person who has this vision. They want to be a coach. They want to get their work out in the world. They want to impact more people. They want to make a certain amount of money. They want to love their message and be sharing that in different formats. But then there's what we do is we look at their image. And so having what we usually have is some sort of disempowering image that doesn't fit with this image of, the vision. And so we don't even realize it. Sometimes it's like we have this vision and we think we get all inspired and we're so excited. But then when we're back in our home office, we're staring at the computer, there's this other image that's running through their mind of someone who is smaller, all the stories, all the beliefs, this image of someone maybe who has that core fear of being visible, or that she's going to be humiliated, or that she's going to be embarrassed, or she's really, when you get into those really core issues of what's preventing you from showing up. And so we start looking at that and shifting into creating this new empowering image of who you are and who you're becoming. To me, that's the crossover. Is it's hard to go, that look in the mirror and say, I am rich, I am powerful, I am beautiful, like there's a gap there, right? So we need to be able to have a bridge across that gap. And so that gap is about who you're becoming. And so I actually have a new product that's getting ready to come out called the Energy Jam. And it helps you create these soul nourishing statements, believable affirmations that you use every day that help you keep crossing that bridge into the woman that you're becoming, the businesswoman you're becoming. And so it's things like, I am a woman who easily attracts clients. I am a woman who, more and more, I am a woman who shares her voice with others. And, it's like believable steps that we can start shifting that image so we can start breaking that down. So that's one of the first places that I start. And then from there, I bring in all sorts of other ways of reframing marketing, looking in creative side doors to get into marketing, and then more work using some healing techniques around shifting those really, really sticky beliefs that are keeping you small.
Healing techniques. That sounds wonderful. I love all of those things. Let's talk a little bit. Let's get down to brass tacks here. I mean, money and mindset. What's the holdup for most people? Why aren't people just getting up in the morning, embracing a positive money mindset, and going about their days? Why is there a problem with this?
Because they're scared. So really what it is there, and fear can show up in different ways, right? It's sneaky, right? Our negative ego wants to pretends to want to keep us safe, but really what it wants to do is to keep us small and contained, right? So that we don't go out into the world and we don't face rejection, humiliation, embarrassment, disconnection, isolation. Those are some of the core, deeper fears, right? Now, we don't show up in the morning and say, oh God, I'm so afraid of being humiliated today. That's not, it's not conscious. Those are like the unconscious beliefs that show up. But the unconscious beliefs those are the things that are running us or keeping us from, wow, this morning I was so excited and I was going to come and do a Facebook Live. And then somehow I just can't get to the computer and I can't seem to do it. And I really need to go organize my closet and I need to go wash the dog and these other things, right? Mm.
Interesting. So we're basically caught in fear, and I can get that, because from a psychology point of view, that makes perfect sense. We're built to want to fit in as much as possible with the collective, with the group. We don't want to do anything that's going to cause us to stand out in a negative way, because then ostracism will be the result, and the lone wolf does not survive,
Right. It's
but the
hardwired
pack
into us.
does. So it is psychologically hardwired into us. And yes, Wendy, your dog is super clean. You
I
should
love
see
that.
my closets. My closets are amazing. My towels are folded Marie Kondo style. So I know what we're talking about here. I know about all the tactics that I can use to slow myself down.
Right.
So, what are some of the things that we should be not doing? Like, just avoiding. What are some of the things that we can truly avoid if we're looking to move forward and to improve our overall mindset, and definitely our money mindset?
Mm. Well, I have a formula that I use that to me, it is about the first step is about creating awareness, right? Like, well, the formula is about stepping into responsibility, stepping into our healthy, wise adult, and taking responsibility, not in a over responsible, not in a harsh way where we're, oh my God, I must be responsible and do everything, but from a really healthy adult self that we're just not taught. Like most of us were not taught to have this healthy sense of self-authority. And so the first step to be able to look at something and say, is it serving me? Is this not serving me? Is to recognize and really recognize that, wow, something is not working, right? There's something that I'm doing and I'm not getting the results that I want. You know, when I go and keep washing the dog every day, he's really clean, but he's starting to hide from me, right? and so, um, and I have this vision I want for my business. And so I want to go out and get clients, I want to write my newsletter, I want to do a Facebook Live, things like that. I want to connect to people, follow up, and we start avoiding it. So recognize the things that you're doing. So recognize those behaviors are that first thing. So if you have behaviors that are where you're avoiding, where you can see you're hiding, where you're doing other things, instead of doing what it is you really want to do. The other thing is perfectionism. That's a really big one. Yeah, that perfectionism is sometimes it can look like a lot of people have this, like working on their website to death because they don't want to release it until every word, every graphic, no, it's not quite right. No, it's not quite right. So it can look like that, or their free gift. They'll just never finalize the free gift because they just have this fear that it's not perfect. It can also, the slight variation of that in perfectionism is the constant striving, right? So it may not look like every single thing has to be perfect, because I'm always like, I'm not a perfectionist. I sent out something yesterday that had a typo in it. Everybody got a big laugh out of it. But yet there is this sense of striving, of never enoughness. And so this never enoughness shows up as, all right, I'm going to get on the computer and I'm going to read other people's newsletters. I'm going to go on Facebook. I'm going to go on Instagram. I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to, oh, look at this. There's an offer for another program. Maybe I should learn another program. And there's all these ways that we hide and scatter our attention instead of bringing that attention in so that we can focus. So that first step is to recognize. The second step is acknowledge. So acknowledge the impact that your behavior is having. And so, this is where you start bringing up and saying, it doesn't, wow, I didn't realize, but I thought I was doing a good thing signing up for all these programs all summer so that I could have stuff to listen to and learn from. But what I'm realizing is that I'm actually hiding out in learning instead of actually doing things for my business. And that's really making me sad, right? It's making me frustrated because I'm not doing things towards my business. And then the third step is forgive or compassion. Like we have to have a moment where we can bring in, and what I do with my clients is we literally bring in the nurturing parent, the voice of the nurturing parent. And the nurturing parent's going to talk to us in a way that's like, not an indulgent parent, not to be confused with, oh, it's okay, go have a glass of wine, it'll be better tomorrow. The indulgent parent. The nurturing parent is going to have like a real conversation with you and forgive you and have compassion with where you've been and acknowledge that what you're afraid of. And then you go into the fourth step is once that's released, then you're able to make a new change, right? You're able to take a new action and bring in a new action that can be a new habit. Yeah. And it takes practice, right? And it has to, and it takes a commitment to want things to be different and recognize like there's things that aren't working. And you have to start, you know, it's worth it to start unfolding those and start being curious and say, okay, what are those things that get in the way? Again, not letting the negative ego come in and say, oh, well, now I have to be perfect and I must find every single thing that's wrong with me. It's not about that. It's just noticing with huge compassion, you know, what activities, what actions, what are those underlying stories that are not serving.
Okay, so I love all of these points that you're making, and I agree. Perfectionism is it's a big one. It's a
Mhm.
big one, I would say, for a lot of us. It took me a long time to get over that analysis paralysis, you know, being stuck in making sure everything is perfect. And now I operate from a totally different playbook where it's more like, okay, I'm just jumping out of the airplane. Hopefully, we can get this built by the time we hit the ground,
Exactly.
however it
There's
ends
something
up.
there's something about holding the mindset of this is a giant experiment,
Yes,
you
I love
know,
that.
and yes, we want to make money, and yes, we want to have an impact. All that's really, really, really important. And you also have to like surrender and let go and say, you know what, marketing, growing your business is this big giant experiment. And so I'm going to try some things. And I know, you know, I can relate because it's like coming from corporate, especially back in the day, was like you had corporate identity manuals, you had communication guidelines, things had to be, you know, perfect. And I was thinking about it yesterday because I sent out this email and I was sitting on my deck and I was all in the flow and it's beautiful out, no humidity. And I'm writing away and I'm like, I'm going to send out an email and remind people about this, you know, this interview that we're doing today and a couple other things. And I said, I'm popping into your email in your inbox today. And then somehow throughout it, when the email went out, it said, I'm pooping into your inbox.
Oh, there you go.
And you know what? I got so many messages from people in my community. They were like, oh my God, I got the biggest laugh today. And they love that I'm human. And, you know, and then I went and did a Facebook Live about you got to let go of perfection or something like that in the past could have like frozen me, right? It could have made me freeze. I could want to hide. Those are common things that you do and be like, I'm never going to send out an email again or, you know, review it to death, right? Review it to death. And it's like, you know what? It's not brain surgery. Actually, it turned out really great because all these people contacted me and got a big laugh out of it and things like that. So you just have to experiment with things. And sometimes things are going to go wrong and sometimes they're going to be even better than you expect.
That's awesome. I love that story. You know, I one of our members in the Ladies Power Lunch group, she talks about the way we live our life. She mentions that it's sort of like watching a movie and just kind of noticing and watching what's happening and not taking it all too seriously and enjoying the experiment. So
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
really, really excited that you are putting this forward as a way of being. And then you talk a little bit too about that feeling of never enoughness. I
Mm,
mean, I feel as though with the way that social media is nowadays, there's probably even more of that happening than
yes.
ever before. Because if you're following everybody's Instagram stories and watching what everybody else is doing, it can really keep you paralyzed from
Yes.
doing what you need to do as well. So that makes perfect sense for
Yeah.
me.
One of the powerful exercises I do with my clients, well, I would say there's two things related to that. One is you have to notice your energy. And when you're in it, I always call it like you're going uphill where you look at other people's stuff and you're inspired. And once it hits that crest, when it starts backfiring, you got to get off, and you just can't let it, you can't start getting into the comparison. Because it'll just send you right into hiding under your bed, right? And hiding in the closet and never come out again. So it can be good because you can get ideas and get inspired, but you have to know your own self when it starts to, shift and turn on you, then you need to back away. The other thing I do with my clients is we do this whole process around uncovering your unique, beautiful brilliance.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes. And this is part of, this is ultimately how you make more money, is really going into your beautiful brilliance, looking at your history and looking at what's your experiences? What did you do in your career? What have you done in your life? What were the challenges? What did you learn? What skills did you pick up along the way? What challenges did you have, with being too sensitive in corporate and things like that? What are your personality quirks, that you were always told that's kind of weird, or that's really different? Because that's part of your magic, actually, is looking at what makes you unique and different. Any assessments that you've taken, where I love assessments because you always get a little glimpse into like another nuance, another piece of you, another perspective. And then there's something about that exercise that is incredibly powerful, that we all of a sudden then we start owning, my clients will own who that person really is, and like how unique and amazing, like that they are not like anybody else, and they are meant to do this work. Like most people who are in this work know they're meant to do it, but it takes it to this whole different level of conviction that then comes across. So then you're able to handle yourself with a healthy self-authority, so that you don't have to compare yourself to somebody else who does something similar, because you've looked at your beautiful brilliance and it's totally different, even when there might be some overlap.
It's wonderful that you bring this up. We were just having conversation at the Ladies Power Lunch group this morning, and the accountability prompt this morning was, what is one thing that you would tell, younger you, that you've learned after being in business for a while, or something to that effect. And somebody posted that being able to recognize that I am unique. There's only one me. That's so valuable. I am a weirdo, Laura. And guess what?
Yes. Yes. And embracing your
And that
weirdness.
is so great.
Yes. Yes. Because when we stop making it wrong, it's like, when you look at people who created things and invented things, or when we read a book, that really speaks to us, lots of times it's because that person did it really differently and said something in a way we hadn't heard before, right? And so they were taking a risk. And so many times it is about taking that risk and letting yourself be seen. And again, holding it as this big experiment, like life is this big experiment. My business is this big sandbox where I get to play.
I love all of this. Yes, Wendy, weirdos unite.
Hashtag.
Hashtag weirdos unite.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that. That makes perfect sense for me. I'm looking at the points that you made. The next thing you pointed out is that we need to acknowledge the impact that the behavior is having. And actually identifying the behavior, that's just one thing, but really taking into account the impact. And one of the things that one of my favorite mentors likes to ask is, what is the cost to you of these things that you're either holding back on or holding on to? So I really like that you're asking these questions, and these are questions that we should
even things like for a while there, I was waking up in the morning, because I got so addicted to the news, crazy news last year, and then I don't want to say things started smoothing out, but at least I didn't need to look at it all the time. But I still was in that habit of in the morning, getting my phone, going through the news, and I would go through my emails. And I was doing that before journaling, before reading something inspirational, before meditating or any of my other rituals. And so I started realizing the price of that. The price of that was like, I was getting myself like angst and like me against the world, and I got to be safe. And it was just not feeding the right mindset. And so the cost of that was too high, right? And so created that awareness about that and started choosing a different behavior. Now it's like I'm back to, okay, I'm going to listen to some inspiring music, or I'm going to do my meditation, and I'm going to do my morning pages, or I'm going to dialogue with my business and dialogue with my life. So yeah, I got it back into those morning practices that really serve me, rather than, these other ones that have a different impact.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think for very many of us, last year had been a little trying, a little difficult, a little unusual, just a tiny bit. And
Wee little bit, right?
I don't know what happened, but last year was not usual. And a lot of our usual practices, the things that usually help us to smooth over our days, many of us got out of those practices and started doing other less healthy things. I can tell you that I also sort of shifted away from my morning routine, and recognizing that and acknowledging the impact of that behavior
Right.
was critical, because once I noticed what was happening, and it was going on for, I want to say, about a month. And one of our Ladies Power Lunch members, Amanda Stack, kind of helped me to recognize that, hang on, I'm not doing my morning things. And getting back into that routine really, really made a big difference for me.
Mhm.
So I totally, totally resonate with that. And then you talk about being the nurturing parent.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the
I
forgiveness practice and bringing in the nurturing parent. Yeah.
I like that. Is that sort of like loving your inner child or something like that? Or is that something that's completely different?
It's within that. It is part of human design, so it is part of that, where you can bring in. Um, you might. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. So I have a whole affirmation list where we bring in the nurturing parent and some different beliefs that the nurturing parent holds. Like one of them is there's no urgency. Like the nurturing parent will say things like there's no urgency, and you're like, oh, like you can just feel your whole body relax when it's like a big T truth, right? Of there really isn't urgency. Like even if I have a deadline coming up this afternoon, like there's something about I can relax in this moment, because then I can open and so much more is available to me. So yeah, there's different ways you can bring in the nurturing parent. You can bring in the nurturing parent to talk to you, but you can also bring in the nurturing parent to talk to the little girl or your adolescent, who usually can often have that sense of adventure and is pissed off because we're not being rebellious, or things like that. So it can show up a lot of different ways. And sometimes it's that little girl, right? That little girl who just wants to cry and is like, I'm afraid of being on Facebook Live. What are people going to think? Or my teeth aren't straight, or I have too many freckles, or, oh my God, I'm getting close to whatever age, whatever the things are that are coming out, these fears. And that nurturing parent can start having a dialogue with that person. I love using journaling and dialoguing as a way to uncover. So I love morning pages where you're just writing free float and getting stuff out of your head, your brain, which is so helpful. But actually dialoguing, where you can have your nurturing parent come in, you have a conversation with your nurturing parent. I'm doing a lot of dialoguing right now with my business. So that's another way of doing it, is listening to my business, like as though my business, I do believe has its own soul. It's its own entity. And so dialoguing with my business. And so in my journal, I'll be like, write L for Laura, and then I'll ask a question like, all right, what should I be working on this summer? I'm getting ready to move at the end of the summer. What do you want from me, this summer? And then it's like, and then I do joyful business, and it's like, all right, JB, this is what JB says, Laura, here's what you want to be working on. And this is what I did actually this week. And it was like, this is a time to nurture yourself, because you are getting ready to redo your website. You're getting ready to move. All these big things are happening. It's okay to rest and rejuvenate. And so I got these messages like permission from my business. I mean, it might sound kind of weird, but oh my gosh, it's so powerful.
It sounds weird enough that I'm going to try it.
Good. Let me know how it goes. It's amazing the insights just by shifting and doing the two. And then I come back and Laura answers, and then JB speaks again, and I'll do that for several pages.
That's wonderful. I'm going to give you some feedback about how that works for me, because that's
Love to hear.
really, really interesting. So I just want to take a moment here to say hello to our wonderful, wonderful ladies who have joined us over on Facebook. And I want to say we have quite an international audience joining us today. Sophia says, hi, I'm joining from Jamaica. And Mina has some great comments. You're getting all sorts of hearts and likes over here. So
Awesome.
what you're saying is really resonating. Your last step was to
Change.
make a new action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So
there's something about once you loosen up, create the aware, recognize and create the awareness, acknowledge the impact, forgive or show compassion, then it's like you're empowered to make the change, right? Until you can see it and see the impact and then have some sort of compassion around it. It's like until you get to that place, then it's like you're able to say, okay, now I want to make a new choice, And sometimes these are little things. So you can go through it really quickly, and like the forgiveness and the compassion can be really quick. But when I came into 2021, like celebrating my 20th year, which is fantastic, right? And I went through my own grief process where I didn't have to, but I chose to look at and recognize that I was excited and wanted to celebrate my 20 years. And at the same time, there was some grief around all the things that I didn't do, that I didn't do this and didn't do that and didn't have $1 million business, or, not even that I ever really tried to have $1 million business, but it's like all the things that I was like, I was going to do and I never got to. And so that forgiveness process can be incredibly powerful with some of those things too, of the dying dreams or the shifting dreams that you're letting go of, so that then it loosens up the energy. So then you can make a new choice, take a new action.
I like that. Taking new action, though, sometimes that can be a little difficult. Are there any words of advice that you have for us for helping to smooth that over?
Yeah. I think two things. One is working with a coach. I think is just the most awesome, fabulous thing, as we all are here. I know we're believers, and just not being alone in this business, because it can drive you crazy, if you feel like you're having to hold everything alone. So having somebody who's your champion, who can help you see things, so you can start to go through this responsibility formula, and you can make new choices, and somebody who's going to support you in how to make the new choice. And then the other thing is, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is I have a lot of tools that are these creative side doors, is what I call them. Is what my clients call them, actually, like these side doors in, like sneaky ways of getting them to market, sneaky ways of getting them to take action. I had a client once who, she hired me. She was a former principal at a school up in New England, and she'd become a coach and wanted to work with other people in the school systems. And she's like, but I hate marketing. She's like, I can't even say the word. She called it the M word. It's like the M word. So that was our code for a couple of months. And then about 3 months in, she sent me a picture with this giant poster board on the back of her wall, and it had a big giant heart, and it said, I love marketing. And it was because we found the authentic way in, right? The way that was really natural for her. Usually it's some sort of baby step, and it's based on your natural, beautiful brilliance. And hers was, she loves to talk to people. She loves to get together. And so we made a whole marketing plan out of, okay, why don't you set up coffees and breakfasts with all these administrators and have conversations with them and let them know what you're doing. She's like, oh my God, how fun could that be? And then next thing you know, her business is growing and expanding, and she was marketing, right? Yeah.
Yep. You definitely have to find your side doors in, for sure, to help you to smooth over that taking action, making a change, that sort of thing. And I'm a firm believer in not having willpower, because I don't. I can tell you right now, I don't. But I'm really good with habits. And so I find that maybe my back door or side door in is creating new habits and being able to tack them on to another habit that exists so
Yes.
that it actually does.
Habit stacking, they call it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Habit stacking. That's like my secret to even
Yeah.
getting up in the morning.
Oh, I love
Seriously.
that. I love that. Well, I work with so many people who do have this sensitive side or this, intuitive creative side that just doesn't fit in the regular mold. So saying, okay, you want to make new sales, then go call 100 people this week. And, I remember I had a coach who told me that. It was like, how many people bought this first product I had, the Joyful Business Guide? And he was like, all right, go call all 700 of them and just start doing it every day. And I was just like
Oh no.
terrified, and I froze, right? And I never did do that, right? Everyone getting the thumbs down, right? Exactly. So to me, it's like, so then I have a program now called Fun and Fabulous Follow-Up, where you reach out to 3 people a day for any reason, no rules, like just to spread happiness, spread joy, check in on clients, check in on past clients, send somebody a message, forward, like anything. Like I give you like 30 ways that you can do this that's really fun and authentic. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of people go through this program. They love this program, this Fun and Fabulous Follow-Up, and they get clients and like all sorts of things start happening from the little micro actions, right? Or creating what I call creating a ritual out of it. So either I love to break things down into baby steps, and I love to create rituals out of things. So it's your version of what you're talking about too with creating habits.
So obviously, this is a great idea. And it's obvious that it's a great idea because it's coming from you. So you know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to make a post in the Ladies Power Lunch group, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to moderate it and just give people an opportunity to make their own list of follow-up ways, fun ways that they can follow up with people that are absolutely not salesy or marketing the S and the M word, you know,
Yes, yes,
keeping those to a minimum, but giving that opportunity for authentic connections that
yes,
lead to the types of clients that we're looking to have anyway.
yes, exactly. And nurturing the relationships that we always have. That's one of the myths that I talk about that I think we've unconsciously bought into, is that we have to have more on our list, and it's like this never enoughness goes to our list. Like of course, yes, we want to expand our list, expand what I call our soul tribe or your community. But at some point you have to recognize, like, it's not, the end goal is not he who has the biggest list is going to win. It's he who, she who has nurtured her community, she who has nurtured her soul tribe. They will tell you what they want. They'll tell you what they want next. There's so many opportunities right there. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I really do believe that engagement in with your
You're
list
so
is,
good at that. You're so great at that.
well, you know
Yeah.
what it is, Laura? The things that I do are really and truly, like you said, the things that the Ladies Power Lunch group ask for. It's the things that they want. And when people started, for example, showing up and saying, hey, can we have somebody come in and talk to us about money mindset? Then we bring in people who know about this thing. When people started saying, we're on Canva and we cannot figure this stuff out, got somebody to come in and talk about Canva. So it's just basically giving the people what they want.
Yes.
And that
And I
seems
love
to
your
be good.
practicing. One of the things I talk about is practicing deep listening. That
Mhm.
so many times we think that it is about, I have to go out and create, I have to go do. And in fact, one of the most powerful things that you can do is deep listening, and listening to your soul tribe, which is what you're doing so well and demonstrating so well, because they'll tell you, oh, I remember I had some private retreats right in a row, like 4 of them one month, right in a row. And everybody was like, okay, give me the lowdown on sales pages. This was about 10 years ago, before lead pages had come out and templates had come out. And they were like, how do I create a sales page? And so I ended up creating a product that was like the business goddess's guide to creating easy and fun sales pages, because I sat there and just wrote it out for them, over and over again. It was like, this is what they want. It's like that deep listening really pays off when you listen to your soul tribe, because they'll tell you what they want next.
I love that. That's so wonderful. And I think that's definitely advice that we can all take. All right. So you will not believe this, but we only have a very few minutes left. I mean,
Gone by
it's like
fast.
we just started talking, but they say time flies when you're having fun. So let's make sure that we hit all the main points about this idea of money mindset. Laura, brass tacks here. How can we elevate our money mindset? How can we shift from that scarcity, that feeling of scarcity, that mindset that is preventing us from achieving our full potential as far as abundance and finances go?
Yeah. Two things, one is I work with an idea called the Universal Abundance Current, the UAC. And envisioned that movie Finding Nemo, right, where they're swimming through all the jellyfish and getting stung, and he's trying to find his son, and there's no way he can get to Sydney on time, no way he can achieve his goal, right? They can't get there that fast. And then they run into the sea turtles, and they are swimming on I think it's the EAC, the East Australia Current, right? So I changed that idea into the Universal Abundance Current, right? And it's like you hop on and allow, like it's right here all the time. You don't even have to go find it. You don't have to go through stinging jellyfish. It's right here around us all the time. And so allowing yourself to realize that the world is an abundant place and that you can ride along the Universal Abundance Current and that anything is possible and anything can happen. So really doing everything you can to cultivate your energy alignment with that will open up all sorts of opportunities. The other thing that I do, and it comes back into taking those, shifting your identity, is that I always get my clients to set financial goals. And because like underneath all of it, it's like, yeah, we're going to talk about money too, right? With the really practical stuff. But the way that I get them to talk about money goals is by doing easy, great, and heaven numbers. So say you have a program coming up this fall, right? You want to enroll people into the program. Then when we would talk about, well, what would be the easy number? And maybe the easy number is, oh, well, last time I had 10 people in the program, I could get 10 people again, right? So that feels doable, right? Already your energy is in alignment with what you want to create. Then you bump it up to great. Like, what is the great number? The number that would stretch you, but doesn't take your breath away. But it's like, oh my gosh, this would be so great if I had 20 people, if I could double it, right? And then we go further into the heaven goal. Like, what would heaven be? And they're like, oh my God, if I had 30 people, that would just be freaking amazing. Sometimes it's people, sometimes you changing the money, you can play with the different parts. Then you get to the heaven version, and it's like, let's use that example of what if it was 30 people in the program? Then it's like, what would you need to do in order to attract 30 people into this program? And so you start brainstorming. It's like reverse engineering, brainstorming. What are the things that you would do in order to have 30 people? So all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, I would do my marketing a little bit different, right? I would show up differently. Then it's who would you be? Who would you need to be in order to attract those 30 people? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I would be really excited about my program. I would have to share my program. I would be a woman who is so excited she would do Facebook Lives. And you start aligning with that new image, like we were talking about earlier in the call, like that new image of someone who could create that. And usually my clients, they fall somewhere between easy and heaven, right? Like amazing things happen. I've had many times where I go past my heaven goal because I showed up in a different way, got ideas in a different way, and then new possibilities happen.
Yes, I think a lot of the times, somebody, and I've been told that this has been attributed to the wrong person so many times, but somebody came up with the idea that if we keep doing things the same way and we keep
Right.
expecting different results, that's completely madness. And I feel like a lot of the times we fall into that madness category because we keep doing exactly the same things. And so the results that we might be getting, they might be falling in that easy category, but they're not giving us those great or heavenly results that we might be expecting. And I think too that we forget that the UAC is right here. And
Yes.
instead of hopping on the current, we strive and we struggle and we make it harder than it has to be.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Totally agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree. And that, and that's a lot of it is uncovering those stories like that, right? Where we've made these agreements in our childhood because my dad worked really hard and therefore modeled, you have, what got his love and attention was hard work, right? And so then it's like, oh, no matter how much money I'm making, it doesn't matter. I better work hard and work all the time, right? And so it's like we unconsciously buy into these modes of working or beliefs we don't even realize are there.
I have two more questions that I want to have you answer, and we are running a little bit low on time.
Yeah.
So if we run over just a tiny bit, could you stay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So one question that comes up all the time is pricing,
Mm-hmm.
especially for people who are in service industry, who are heart-centered entrepreneurs. There is sort of a feeling like charging the lowest possible price to accommodate the greatest number of people, possible clients, is the way to go. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I always approach when I'm talking to clients about pricing, we look at a couple different things. So one of the things we look at is what is your goal, right? Because that determines everything, right? If you're doing say a 30-day program, like remembering that it's all a big giant experiment, right? So you could charge anything. People could charge anything for the same program, right? But like, what are your reasons for doing the program? Is the program an introductory program? Is it you're trying to get people on your list? Are you introducing them to your work? Do you want it to be that first commitment step that they're taking? So then you might want them to pay something? Or is this a program where, this is one of my main offerings and I want to make a good amount of money on it? Or is it a high-end boutique exclusive? So we look at what is the goal of it? Where are you positioning? That's one piece to give us kind of a direction. And then from there, I call it resonant pricing. And resonant pricing is, let's pick a number and like, how does it feel in your body? How does it feel to say it? And totally, that part is not analytical. It's a feeling thing, right? Are you in alignment with it? And so, we might look at $297 and somebody's like, oh my God, I can't charge that. So then we know like they're going to probably sabotage their success, right? And so then we'll try different numbers and then we'll expand into a number and, really see where their set point is and then where can we change it depending on what their goals are. So it's probably different. I told you I'm a different kind of business coach.
Very different, but I think that's a really interesting way to approach the idea of pricing, because I think you're right. I think one of the things that people struggle with is they might be, for example, working with a coach that is encouraging them to raise their prices, but they sabotage themselves because
Right.
they're unable to even say those words to
Yes.
a prospective client.
Yeah. And if you don't do the work around, whether it's the forgiveness work, that you haven't charged that, or you're afraid to charge it, or doing some sort of, I do a lot of EFT where we're tapping on those, inner trigger points that get in the way, then yeah, you'll either freeze, and it might take you a while to start doing your program and then you're behind and you're not able. I used to do that. I would do these great programs, but I would always kind of freeze at the beginning and go in circles. And then I would put it all out. And I really didn't give enough time to enroll like in a bigger way, right? So that was one of the lessons that I learned with that.
So that in a way was you sabotaging yourself because
Right, it was
you
a way
didn't
of
feel comfortable
sabotaging.
with the pricing.
Right. Bigger success, right? Could I have more people, or could I have give more time for people to say yes to a bigger price? Now, what I will say is that resonant pricing, sometimes you're trying on a number that is uncomfortable, and I often have my clients like, okay, what's your dream offer? And I get them to create this dream offer of like, oh my God, if I could work with a client and we went to Bali and we did this and we had massages and we, I get them to do the big dream offer, and then I was teaching them that and coaching that, and put a price with it. And then I get them to start saying it and just saying that offer out loud. I always get clients to like walk around the house and say that big price and get your mouth used to moving. Like my program is $10,000, and that kind of thing. So that it's like in your body, in your cells, so that, and that always helps start loosening things up so that you get into energetic alignment with it.
My other question that I had was, when it comes to investing in ourselves, investing in programs for ourselves or coaching or conferences or whatever it is, sometimes that can also be an obstacle for people. And it seems to be coming from a place of a money mindset that needs to be elevated. What advice do you have for clients and, of course, for our listeners when it comes to investing in ourselves?
Mm. Well, I think this goes particularly for solo entrepreneurs, where it is just really hard to do it alone. This entrepreneur journey is a spiritual journey. Every area where you need to grow and expand, I think Wendy, you said it earlier, somebody said it earlier about, what shows up in one area is going to show up in your money, and so it's like, and there's things you can't see. And so to me, one of the best investments that you can make is working with a coach. And I've worked with coaches of all types for 25 years now, where I've had spiritual coaches, internet coaches, money coaches, spiritual, all sorts of mindset coaches, all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's interesting because coming from corporate myself, we were always being sent on trainings, we were
Right.
always being sent on conferences. I don't think there was a month that went by where there wasn't some sort of professional development that was taking place in our office community.
Yes.
Something was always happening. And of course, as a physician, we have to continue to do continuing medical education. We have to get a certain number of credits. So investing in myself and in my personal and professional development has been a part of me. And yet, the very first time that I stepped into high level coaching, there was hesitation there, and I remember, I can tell you exactly how much it was. It was $15,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was probably because it was my first time that I had to pay for it myself, because
Right.
all of the time our companies had paid for all of these things.
Right.
But then I thought about it and I thought about what I wanted to achieve from that. And it was a no brainer because this program was going to be providing information that was not, I didn't have information
Right.
that I absolutely needed.
Right.
So, I mean, Laura, like, how can we really get to that stage where even for somebody like me who knows the value of personal and professional development, how can we embrace the idea of investing in ourselves, embrace it a little bit more closely?
Mm. Well, I always look at it, what you focus your attention on,
Mhm.
attention and intention expands. And we hear about that a lot with law of attraction principles and mindset principles. And the same thing goes for investing in yourself and taking programs. I remember my first program that I did, not a private coaching, but first workshop that I invested in, where I was going to see Allie Brown in her very first workshop that she ever did.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
like $3,000, it was probably 19 years ago or something. And I brought it to my coach and I was like, why do I want to spend $3,000 on a 2-day event? That seemed really expensive because I was paying for myself, plus hotel, plus food, plus airline.
Mhm.
And then I realized, yes, it was for the information, but it was also because I wanted to be around people and I wanted to work with someone who was going to show me a different way. And it goes back to what you were talking about. Like, you keep trying to do something the same way you've always done it, and you're not getting the results. And then, like, that can make you crazy. Well, the same thing to me, it's like working with a coach, taking that first workshop and flying across the country was because I wanted to be in a room full of people who were also building their business online, because that was so different back then, and it was like there was this higher level conversation. It was a different conversation that I was going to find at home, certainly a different conversation than I was going to find sitting here talking to my cat, right, alone during the day.
It depends on
And
your cat, though.
what's that?
It depends on your cat.
Yes, right. She can have lots of wisdom. So yes, yeah, I just think that there's something about accepting that it up levels your business in ways you can't even realize, and it does become part of, like, I just put into my budget, and that same thing when I'm talking to clients, it's part of their budgets. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, after I coached with that particular program, the people that I met, amazing.
Right.
The way I felt about my business, completely different. All the things shifted, and it was absolutely worth it. And that's also the cheapest coaching program that I've ever taken.
Yes, 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 yeah. I can remember flying back on on a plane from. I used to go to Scottsdale to work with a coach in her platinum program, and coming back, and then I got my first $10,000 client. That was one of my first things back in the early 2000s, and it was like directly as a result of the expansion work that we did together. And so it definitely impacts your bottom line. You're not going to get an impact in your bottom line that's substantial just by sitting here in front of your computer.
I
Yeah.
agree. Laura, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I feel like we could have had this conversation like a full day workshop.
I
It
know, I know. It's
really,
been
really
fun.
feels like this could continue. And so would it be okay for me to invite you to let's just continue this conversation over in the Ladies Power Lunch Facebook community and give people a chance to kind of ask you questions, pick your brain, because there is a lot of wisdom that you have to share with us. And I think we've only just scratched the surface.
I would love to. I would love to. I'll come over there, and then they're welcome to come over, and I have a free gift for everyone as well. So I'm happy to share that. I can share that here or share that there.
Sure. Would you be kind enough to tell us what your free gift is?
Sure. It's a free ebook. It's called Daily Flow Rituals, building on what we were talking about earlier. And there's over 90 stories and examples of different types of rituals to help you get centered, get aligned, get into the flow, open up your creativity and your focus. And they're all stories for me and for my clients and the things that we do on a daily basis. So really good ideas, really good ideas. And
I
you can get that over at joyfulbusinesssuccess.com/rituals.
joyfulbusinesssuccess.com/rituals. Awesome. And then Laura, people are going to want to reach out to you. How can people connect?
They can probably one of the easiest ways they could connect through LinkedIn or they can connect through Facebook. Those are super easy. And then of course they could just email me at laura@joyfulbusiness.com.
And you are Laura West on both Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Any last words? Last words of advice for us about how we can absolutely elevate our money mindset and really our mindset in general.
Mm. Well, it's like we want to hold both being a good steward of our money, the practical activities that we need to do, where we're really nurturing our money and paying attention to our money. But we can't grasp it and hold on to it and have a constricting energy. When you're in constriction, that's going to repel the money. So that's when you need to do everything you can to get, like, your number one job is to energy alignment with the UAC, energy alignment with the universal abundance current, because that's going to open up all sorts of possibilities and opportunities. It's going to change how you show up, which means you're going to show up differently with people and have a different conversation, and that will open up the opportunities for you.
I love that, Laura. It's all about the alignment. Thank you so much. You are a delightful guest. Really enjoyed having you on the show today. And thank you to everybody who joined us here, of course, in the Zoom room, as well as our guests who joined us over in our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group. Thanks, everybody. It's been a great afternoon. Thanks so much. And I'll see you guys on the next show. Bye.